Hi everyone, Madu Koga here. In this video, I'm just going to go over my language learning plan and also give you all a few updates regarding my list. Basically, as you can see here, this is the Common European Reference, or sorry, Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. So this is more or less the guideline I'm using. As far as the levels I want to achieve in each language. So let me just go over my list again real quick, and then after that I will let you know my plan of operation, so to speak, as far as how I plan to learn these languages and how I'm actively learning them now. Alright, so not much has changed, just more simplification as as I told you all before, that to the extent I do make changes, it'll be in the spirit of simplification. So as you can see here, I kind of gave kind of an outline as far as what these language levels mean, just so your average person could understand. So C1 and C2 more or less correspond with advanced to a mastery level. Like, in mastery would also kind of be a native level. B1 to B2 is from an intermediate level to an advanced level. A2 I would say is a beginner to intermediate level, and A1 is a beginner level. And then less than A1 I just call it limited. So yeah, my group 1 basically consists of 8 languages that I want to learn at to one of these levels, B1 to B2 or C1 to C2. And C1 to C2, I would call that like a native level, or a mastery level. That's basically the highest, especially C2 is the highest you can get in a language, basically. And B1 to B2, I would consider, like, yeah, from intermediate to advanced. So I guess you can say, like, at a uh, conversational level, competent. You're competent in the language. You can have you're conversational. I guess you can call it semi-fluency. And then my group 2 consists of 12 languages. They range from limited to A1 to A2. So A1 to A2, I'd say it's like, anywhere from a survivor level, or I'm sorry, it's basically like a basic conversational level, I would say. Um, yeah, it's basic conversational level that I would argue that A2, when you reach A2, you can actually say you speak the language, but you have to qualify that with a little, right? So, like, an upper end of this, like A2, it's at a level where you can say I speak a little, like I speak a little Mohawk, for example. Whereas in group 1, any of these languages, my goal is to be able to say I can speak them, full stop. Obviously, some I could speak with more proficiency than others. And in limited, obviously, that's below A1, and that's like your survivor level. You can't really say you speak the language. You just basically you know a few words and phrases. A few basic words and phrases in a language. So make sure I'm still recording. Okay. Cause sometimes it stops on me. I had it happen before where I was talking for I don't know, maybe an hour and it wasn't even recording. So I definitely wanna prevent that from happening again. All right, so my group one, this is like my A list, so to speak. Um, I have my top two languages. The first one is Cherokee, Zalagi Gawoni Histi. As you all know from previous videos, it's Iroquoian. And along with Cherokee, I'm obviously going to be learning Cherokee script, the syllabary, which doesn't show up here for some reason. I'm specifically going to be focusing on the Eastern dialect, as they call it, Kitua, as you can see here. Um, the reasons are a lot of different reasons. For one, well, first of all, I grew up, born and raised in Eastern Woodlands, or the Eastern United States, East Coast, however you want to call it. And Cherokee is definitely the biggest native group from the Eastern Woodlands. Um, and I have some Cherokee ancestry as well, and they're specifically from the Eastern Band from North Carolina. And apart from that, it's compared to Western Cherokee, Eastern Cherokee is more vulnerable. It's more in danger. It's more endangered. It has only, I think, 200 speakers. So it's really it's in dire need of people to learn it, especially people learn it as a heritage language. Um, so yeah, and then the second one that's part of my top two is Island Arawak. Um, by the way, there's no descending order here. Like, but as far as I'm concerned, both of these have equal status as far as the level at which I want to learn them, which I want to be the highest level possible. So these are my two main focuses. So we have Island Arawak, Kairinye. Island Arawak itself consists of two different languages. Or I'm sorry. Well, yeah. So if honestly, I have to make a whole video about this, but just to make it brief, Island Arawak splits into Taino and Ayeri. Taino, unfortunately, is not around anymore, and it hasn't been documented to the level where it could be revived. But the other part of the Island Arawak group is Ayeri, which around the 1200s started to become Kalinago. And then later, Kalinago, specifically the ones on St. Vincent Island, started to become Garifuna, which happened after there was an adding to their population by West Africans who were taken, as slaves, who were enslaved and being brought, to the Americas, and for, either due to a mutiny in the slave ship, or due to the Carib or Kalinago warriors taking over the ship, one or the other. They came together and formed this group called the Garifuna in St. Vincent Island. So that's the other part of Island Arawak, which survives today through the Garifuna, and to a lesser extent the Kalinago, as far as the language is concerned. So, and Garifuna is one of the variants of Island Arawak I will be learning, but also there's a project I'm involved in to try to revive the Ayeri language. um, and adding, Taino influence where we can. So hence the name Taino Ayeri. I don't want to call it Taino because it isn't Taino, but Taino Ayeri, I see it kind of like Scots English, right? Where it's not Scots Gaelic, but it's just English influenced by Scottish. Um, so yeah, Hukwahiakoni, Ayeri Ariankoni. But yeah, this is deserving of another video, which I might do on this channel, but definitely on another channel I have, which is specifically dedicated to this language. And also, I have another video channel that's solely dedicated to Kitua dialect of Cherokee. But anyway, so those are my top two, and so those are ones I want to reach, the highest level possible. They're my main focuses, and I mean, the reasoning behind these two being uh, my main focuses is that my main two is yeah, partially because I have some ancestry derived from both. Um, as far as Island Arawak, it's through Cuban ancestry that I have partially. But the other reason is, well, the other reasons are one, they're apart from my own personal connection, they're in need, like compared to, let's say, a lot of these African languages, which I also have a heritage connection with, probably actually even more strongly. But the fact that I've lived all my life in the Americas, and that these languages are, they're in a more dire straits than these African languages I'm learning. So basically, because of those reasons, they're kind of like my top two. But anyway, next we have Arabic. Is Afro-Asiatic family of the Semitic branch. Don't really need to talk much about Arabic except for the fact that these are the main varieties I'm focusing on. MSA, the standard literary, and Sudanese Arabic and Levantine Arabic. Those are the three varieties I'm going to be focusing on. And so yeah, so Arabic, I want to learn at an advanced level, intermediate to an advanced level. Um, well, actually, I mean, I kind of already have MSA down. I don't know. I guess I would say I'm at a B level already. Maybe B1. I want to say maybe B1, maybe B2. But Sudanese and Levantine, especially Sudanese, are new to me, so I have yet to get those levels up. And then we have Mandingo, Mandenka. But yeah, this is Lughat al Arabiya. I forgot to add the writing here, which obviously I already have learned how to read and write in Arabic. So Mandenka is the next one, of West Africa. Niger Congo language of the Mande family. Don't need to get much in detail here, but because I covered it in previous videos. But I'm also learning the script in Ko. So two varieties, Bamana Jula, which is by far the biggest, and standard literary Kangbe, which is based on the Malinke dialect of Guinea. And this is what the Nko. This is connected to the Nko alphabet. I don't know. I'm probably gonna delete this variety. Or I might just put it here with Malinke. Because Mau is technically Malinke variety. Um, it's very interesting and unique, but it's definitely not going to be my focus. Um, yeah, so just as with Arabic, my goals for this language are intermediate to advanced level. And the reason I have two levels for each language, like as my target levels, is because realistically, your languages fluctuate. Even your native language, will fluctuate depending on your use of it and what context you use it in. And especially with learned languages, you, I mean, as with any, I mean, you have to use it basically. I don't know how else to say it. If you're not using it on a constant basis, you're only going to get to a certain level. Um, but yeah, so that's why I have like two levels that I want, like, to fluctuate between. And and then next we have Swahili, Kiswahili, which doesn't really need much of an introduction, especially since I covered it in the last videos. Um, yeah, Niger Congo family, Bantu. This same level. I want my target level is intermediate to advanced. Um, and just a quick note with these African languages. Yeah, a good reason why I pick them, and they're in my group one, is apart from being major, big languages, they're also there's also a personal connection. I mean, I can't. It's hard to say exactly, but I know the specific regions that my African ancestry comes from, and so they more or less coincide with that. But yeah. Next we have Yucatec Maya. Um, Maya Tan of Central America. Mayan language. It's a one of the biggest Native American languages, and yeah. So my focus will be on Yucatec proper, as spoken in the Yucatan Peninsula of the present-day Mexican states of Quintana Roo, Yucatan, and Campeche, and small part of northern Belize. But also, I'm going to get a little bit into the southern, I like to call them the southern Yucatecan varieties, like Itza, Lacandon, and Mopan. Especially the first two, they really interest me. Um, these are spoken in Guatemala, Chiapas, and Guatemala and Belize, respectively. And then literary Cholti, which it's a whole. It's deserving of a whole its own video, but it's based on the ancient literary language. So I'll definitely be learning the glyphs as well. Next we have Hausa, back to West Africa. Harshen Hausa, and I'm actually working on a script because historically, or at least since I don't know, a few hundred years, Hausa's been using a variety of Arabic script called Ajami, and it kind of fell out of use. So I'm kind of trying to bring it back, adding some characteristics to it. I think it needs, like tone. Um, so yeah, Afroasiatic family, Chadic branch, and yeah. So this is, as with the previous languages, like Yucatec Maya, Swahili, Manding, and Arabic. My goal level is intermediate to advanced. Then we have Igbo, Asusa Igbo, Niger Congo family, Volta Niger branch. So my focuses here are going to be southern Igbo of Imo and River State, and also what I like to call Delta Igbo varieties, Ogba and Ikwere. in River State. And yeah, so this also will get a will will I'll learn it at a intermediate to advanced level. Excuse me. And then group two. Um, so before I was kind of leveling this group into, I was dividing it into two different subgroups, and it was just kind of unnecessary. Long story short, and I just put them all under one. So these are languages that my my learning of them will be limited to from a limited level to a A1 to A2 level. So roughly speaking, limited to beginner to intermediate. So you have Mohawk, Kanyanga, Ganyangeha, Ganyangeha, Iroquoian as well, Quiche, Katsihopal. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention real quick, just with Igbo, I'm experimenting with a new script that's out there called Akagu, and I'm modifying it to turn it into an abugida. So expect videos on that in the future. But yeah, group two, Mohawk, Quiche, Katsihopal, Mayan as well. Mendeia, Niger Congo, Mende. Danwo of also Niger Congo, Mende. Specifically the western branch, which is or the western variety. Tikuna of South America, language isolate. I don't have I mean, I have the endonym yet, but I really don't know how to pronounce it yet. Also in Amazon region, Baniwa or Vakwe, Arawakan as well. Mostly going to be focusing on the Ehe Oho group, which I guess could be considered northern Baniwa, and the Resigaro, which I admit is a stretch to have in this group, but it shares at least 60% lexical similarity with Baniwa proper, and it's very endangered language that needs a lot of help. So it's another reason. Tupi Guarani, Avanye, Abanyenga. So this is gonna be Guarani of the Paraguayan variety, and Tupi Namba or Niengatu. But my main focus is probably gonna be just on Guarani. It's Tupian. It's the Tupian family. We have all the way to Asia, Malay, Bahasa Melayu, Austronesian, Tamil, South India, and Malayalam as well with it. Although my focus is probably going to be on just Tamil, just because around 70% of Keralites, people of Kerala, understand Tamil, and but I put them together because they're very similar, and to the extent even where a lot of Tamil speakers from India confuse Sri Lankan Tamil with Malayalam. So yeah, Dravidian languages, really cool. Back to South America, Embera Bedea, Chocoan language. Specifically the northern variety, northern Embera. Back to Mesoamerica, Tzotzil, Batikop, Mayan language of Chiapas. And last but not least, Huron, aka Yamendat de Wandat. Specifically the Wandat variety as opposed to the Wendat one. It's also Iroquoian. But yeah, so that's about it. I just kind of simplified the group two a little bit, and but yeah, as far as how I'm going to learn these languages, so basically all the languages on my A list are group one. The frequency in which I'll be learning them is on a weekly to monthly basis. So in other words, I'll be repeating a language like maybe 2 or 3 days a week, or at the very minimum, um, 2 or 3 days. Like if maybe 2 days a month. Um, and the B list group two will my frequency in studying and speaking is will be monthly to yearly. So in other words, ranging from once a month to a few times a year, depending on the level, obviously. Um, let's see what else. And as far as my schedule is concerned, like at the time being, as we speak, so yeah, so I as you all probably know from my story, my first learned language was Spanish after English. So English and Spanish. Um, I dabbled in Italian for a bit. Let's see, yeah. So, but yeah, my first I guess more recent language that I started learning, it was Arabic back in want to say around 2002. And then after that, I think I mean, I was playing around with a lot of languages at the time, especially Asian languages in high school. But yeah, around 2010, I started Yucatec Maya. Then 2013, I started Cherokee along with Mandingo. And then, see, I dabbled in Hausa a little bit, but in 2018, I think it was, is when I started Swahili. No, 2019, sorry. Yeah, 2019, I started Swahili. And later on in the year, but mostly this year, I started Garifuna, Island Arawak. So if you can see the pattern, I try not to start more than two new languages at once. It's just a lot easier. Um, and But when I start a new language, I like to focus specifically on that language at the very least for 2 weeks. If it's a group one language, so if it's a group one language and I'm just starting it, it will be 2 weeks to a month. It'll be my sole focus. But if it's a group two language, it'll probably just only be a week. When I first started. See what else. Yeah. So my schedule right now is Cherokee, Island Arawak, Arabic, specifically Sudanese Arabic, Mandenka, Kiswahili, and Yucatec Maya. So as of right now, July 17th of 2020, these are my active languages that I'm learning and using and practicing with. Um, yeah, as far as my schedule, it varies. You like I guess the my default schedule would be uh, in order would be like in starting I guess Sunday beginning beginning of the week I would start with Cherokee, then either Mandingo or Sudanese Arabic, and then I do Island Arawak, and then either Swahili or Yucatec Maya. Um, but a lot of times I take longer because in the previous scenario I mentioned, each language would couldn't get no more any more than 2 or 3 days. But two is a minimum, definitely 2 days in a row. Um, but a lot of times I will focus on a language for a week, or if it's Cherokee or Island Ottawa, 2 weeks even. And obviously, um, certain circumstances will call that I focus on it for a longer time. Be it travel to a certain area where they speak it, or immersion program, or classes, etc. But generally, no, I try not to do no any more than 2 weeks for each one of these guys. Um, and for the rest of the group one, sometimes I give it a week. But I always had my only rule is that I have to get each of these languages in once a month, or so that's 2 days a month for each. Um, then next year I'm gonna add on Igbo, and the following year, 2022, I'm gonna add on Hausa. Um, then after that, 2023, I'll be getting into my B list, and I haven't decided how I'm gonna go about that yet. Um, but as I mentioned before, the frequency of my B list, as far as when I study and practice them, will be monthly to yearly. So relatively more infrequent than the A list. And oh, I think that's all. I feel like there's more, but yeah, I guess that's all for now. Just kind of wanted to give you an overview of you know my the plan I have to go about learning these languages, and until next video then.